It is common knowledge at this point for many of you that I am a Christian. I do not hide this fact, and I'm not shy about it. And over the past few months, I've been more open in my content about this, as I've been pushing my ministry with more passion. And pretty soon I'm planning on starting an actual Bible study session on my other channel, which I'll leave a link to in the description. Go check it out. I could really use the support. I'm very grateful to all of you for following me on this journey of mine, and I really appreciate your support, like I said. But today, I met with something quite shocking. I was sent this trailer on my Discord, and at first I was just going to ignore it, but then I actually saw it on my YouTube feed when I was watching one of those, ads that play before a video. This is a trailer for a new movie called The Book of Clarence, and I think it would be fun to watch this trailer together because, well, I feel it's an excellent example of something that I think many in the world choose not to notice, and we'll get to all that at the end. But first, as usual, since this video has kind of a theme, let's replace my avatar with Pastor Claire. There we go. And let's watch the video. Here we go.
I'm Clarence. I'm not a man without faults. I played the cards I was dealt.
Clarence, in spite of your selfish ways, there is a beautiful soul in there somewhere.
So wait, that's supposed to be John the Baptist? John was described as incredibly unkempt and wild looking. He looked like a man of the wild. This guy looks pretty well groomed and taken care of to be John, but okay. In fact, okay, next question. What the heck is that name Clarence? Like, your name is Clarence, dude? Okay, this is 33 AD in Jerusalem. Clarence would not be a name yet. It's an English name that traces its origins back to the 19th century. This would not be an accurate name for the time period. Oh, right, and everyone's black. I mean, sorry, that was such a blatant issue, I didn't think it was worth bringing up, but yeah, all right, we'll bring it up. Why are all the Jews in Jerusalem black here? I hope that the creators are aware that this is not accurate. There are certain sects of Jews that are darker skinned, yes, but there aren't a great deal of them, and the Jews of the Holy Land at this time would look Middle Eastern or Lebanese, not African black. Sure, their complexions would be darker than the Romans, but they would not be this kind of black. My guess is that you're trying to appeal to the black Hebrew Israelites, which are about as credible as the Westboro Baptist Church, so I wouldn't really be banking on their seal of approval. But alright, I'm willing to buy this so far. I'm willing to play this game with you. Just let's keep going. Let's see. So Clarence is our main character, a man with faults but a good heart. Okay, being baptized by John the Baptist. Cool, okay. Let's see where this goes.
Clarence, it's him.
Jesus of Nazareth.
You can't even buy power like that. I want to be like that in 10 years.
I want to be like that now.
Be like what exactly? Do you want to be a healer like Jesus? A teacher like Jesus? A rabbi like Jesus? Or do you just want to be famous like Jesus? I'm very concerned about this. Plus, okay, I can tell by looking at Jesus here that you got him wrong too. Firstly, you made him black as well. He was not black like that. He was more likely olive-skinned or Lebanese. Please stop trying to make Jesus what he wasn't. But secondly, Jesus was not quite a celebrity in that sense. You're coming off with this impression that the whole world just loves Jesus. Everybody and everywhere loves Jesus. This wasn't quite true. There were plenty of people who did not like Jesus. Jesus had a mixture of fans and haters everywhere he went. In fact, quite often, Jesus tried to avoid large crowds and adoring public so that he didn't draw too much attention to himself. There are several moments in the Bible that show him trying to avoid crowds and warning those he healed not to tell of what he'd done. Jesus did not seek praise from people. He did not live for the glory that men would give him, but to bring God's forgiveness to people. It's the most famous verse in the Bible, John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, so that those who believe in him shall not perish, but shall have eternal life. Jesus' goal was not to win and gain a fan club. His goal was to save people.
Knowledge is stronger than belief.
Okay, I see. So this is the story of a man who saw Jesus' miracles and fame and wanted that power and glory for himself. So now he's trying to start a new ministry to lure in people and make himself something of a cult leader. All right, well, I'll tell you this. That's actually a clever idea because that did happen at times after Jesus ascended. In fact, Acts tells us a few stories of men who tried to perform miracles or preach a false doctrine, and Paul openly rebuked and called them out fiercely. In fact, there's a verse specifically about this in Galatians 1, 8 through 9. But even if we or an angel from heaven should preach a gospel other than the one we preach to you, let them be under God's curse. As we have already said, so now I say again, if anybody is preaching to you a gospel other than what you accepted, let them be under God's curse. And there were also examples of men trying to do miracles or signs that the apostles did, only to fail and demonstrate the dangers of misrepresenting God. In fact, in Acts 19, there's a story of a few men who saw what Paul could do and tried to exorcise a demon themselves by saying, in the name of this Jesus guy that Paul talks about, get out of this man. And the demon not only mocked them for this by saying, I know Jesus and I know Paul, who the hell are you? But it attacked them and beat them viciously for this heresy. So this could be an interesting exploration of a false teacher and how he has to learn the message of God and salvation, not about himself or his own glory. That would be an interesting discussion if he's actually learning along the way. Being a Messiah is more than having a fan club. It's more than the miracles. There's more to being Jesus than just performing miracles. See, that would be interesting. But I don't know if that's the direction they're going to go. We'll have to see. Oh, and I like him just saying this, some platitude, knowledge is greater than belief. That's your whole sermon? Sounds like someone who doesn't understand the Bible at all and is trying to just quote a verse they think will give them brownie points. I also get a sense that this line is kind of a mocking of the faith, since faith comes from belief, but I mean, I could be wrong. The fact is that line isn't biblical. There's nothing in the Bible that says knowledge is greater than belief. So, okay, let's keep going.
Clarence, he needs miracles.
I have a plan.
I can see! I can see!
Yep, so he's a snake oil salesman. He basically has his friends pretend to be sick or injured and heals them miraculously in front of audiences to earn their favor and their money, because you notice he's dumping a bunch of silver coins in front of him, so he's clearly making bank off of this, which is also not like Jesus, because Jesus did not get money from anybody for what he did. He did not demand money or payment for his actions. Classic maneuver, but there are several problems here. For one thing, while Jesus did heal people in front of others, he often did it privately too, without others seeing, because people would approach him in private. Also, the people he healed were unquestionably in need of help. In this scene, he's clearly healing, in hard quotes here, his friend. Wouldn't these people know? Don't any of them know that this person is faking it? Like, if he did this in his hometown where they both live, they'd know that this is false. So obviously they'd have to go to another town. But then if they go to another town, why would anyone want to listen? And wouldn't anyone want to double check? See, that's the thing. A lot of the people that Jesus healed, everyone knew they were sick or injured or unhealthy or something was wrong with them. People knew that there were problems and Jesus was fixing them. In this case, does no one realize that this is fake? But here's another problem I have, and I hope that they'll bring this up. What happens when real injuries and issues are brought at your feet? What happens when someone with a real problem shows up? Have you not thought this through, my friend?
God sent me to deliver his message. I am your new Messiah.
All right, major problem here, major problem. Firstly, the Jews who believed in Jesus would not have believed these words because the Jewish texts only tell of one Messiah. See, the thing about Jesus is that he didn't come out of nowhere. The Jews had been waiting for the Messiah prophesied by the prophet Isaiah from the house of David. Some other guy showing up and saying that he's the new Messiah? They'd call him a blasphemer in a heartbeat. Not to mention, he's doing an imitation and mockery of Jesus. And while there were some Jews who believed in Jesus being the Messiah, many Jews did not see Jesus as the Messiah because of what he preached. See, the Jews at that time expected the Messiah to be a warrior who would defeat Rome and bring the Jews back into power. So many rejected Jesus because he was here to preach love and forgiveness and mercy and God's love. They were wanting a warrior. So why would these people believe in a guy who's just doing all the same things Jesus did? You know, that's another thing to keep in mind. If he's just repeating everything Jesus does, won't they say, that's a little suspect, don't you think? You're just doing everything Jesus does. What are you doing different? What are you doing different? How are you different from Jesus? You're not the new Messiah. You're just a Messiah 2.0, not nearly as charming. So, and plus, keep in mind that anybody who knows Clarence, like John the Baptist apparently knows Clarence, wouldn't he know exactly who this guy is? Because keep in mind, in the Bible, John the Baptist took one look at Jesus and knew he was the Messiah. He proclaimed him as the son. He said, "You are the one I've been waiting for." In this, he straight up slaps Clarence because he's smoking while getting baptized.
Blasphemous swine! Stop that!
Wouldn't people know that this is a problem? Essentially, the sermon of his wouldn't appeal to either the believing Jews or the non-believing. No one would listen to this guy. I've got to wonder, do the creators of this movie just think that the Jews of that time were stupid? A bold new vision on a timeless story. All right, first of all, let's start with this bit. A bold new vision. This seems to be the mantra and battle cry of every movie that's made now. They want to take something that already exists, be it a fairy tale, be it a popular movie or TV series or comic or what have you, and do it in a new way. And when they say new vision, they always mean one of three things. Either they're going to swap some races, they're going to swap some sexes, or they're going to swap some sexuality. Maybe a little bit of all three. So, new vision just means you're trying to change some stuff to make it more politically or socially expedient in the modern era, which basically takes this timeless story and makes it completely dated. So I hate whenever people say, "Oh, I've got a brand new vision on this timeless story." No, you don't have a new vision on this timeless story. You're just trying to make it fit a current or certain narrative that you want. And then timeless story. Okay, timeless story. You mean the Gospels. You mean the Gospel, the story of Jesus of Nazareth. The story of the Messiah in the Christian faith. That's what you want to give a new vision to. Look, here's the thing. We've seen the story of Jesus told in various ways. We've seen it done in The Passion of the Christ. We've seen it in Jesus of Nazareth, the movie. We've seen it in The Chosen, this recent new crowd-funded show series about Jesus and his disciples. We've seen the gospel told various ways in various formats. But all of them were done with the intent of glorifying Jesus, his disciples, the message, the gospel. They're done with the attitude of, we want to glorify Jesus. This is not retelling the story of Jesus. This is telling the story of another guy trying to pretend to be Jesus. I thought this was just a story about a guy trying to learn the consequences of trying to play God. But you're actually going to make this out to be him being the Messiah or something. You're not actually saying this is a new vision of the story of Jesus, right? Like, I can't tell. This trailer seems to be taking itself very seriously. That's the issue I have here. This trailer seems to be taking itself very seriously. I thought this might be a comedy, kind of like The Life of Brian. But this doesn't feel like The Life of Brian. With the background orchestral music and the serious looks on everyone's faces and all that, this feels way more serious than comedy.
Your God is a myth. See for yourselves. There is no Messiah. Clarence, if you'll be so kind to walk on water.
Okay, there are several problems here. Firstly, the Romans did not ever consider the God of the Jews a myth. They just lumped in the God of the Jews with all their other gods, because that's the way the Romans rolled. If they conquer a people, they say, hey, you can still worship your God, we're just going to add him into our pantheon. That simple. So the Romans didn't call their God a myth. They just said, he's just another one of the gods in the pantheon. Secondly, why is he challenging him to walk on water? Why is the Roman guy here trying to challenge Clarence to walk on water? Now, you might be saying, because obviously Jesus walked on water. Well, yes, he did, but it is very unlikely that the Romans knew Jesus did that. In fact, I'm willing to bet they had no idea he did that. At this point in time, the Gospels had not been spread widely enough around, and even if they had been, the Romans likely weren't the first ones to read them. And Jesus only walked on water once, and it was only seen by his disciples in the middle of a storm at sea. There were no Romans to see it. This challenge that the Roman provides implies that the Romans know of miracles of Jesus. They know about what Jesus did, and they want to see if Clarence can do it. But number one, they had no idea that Jesus did this. And two, what would that prove anyway? Let's ignore all that for a moment. Let's ignore the fact that they don't know Jesus did this and discuss the part where this doesn't add up. See, here's the thing. Why would the Romans care if he could walk on water? They didn't care about Jesus until the Pharisees strong-armed Pilate into crucifying him. Why do they care about Clarence? Why would they even bother testing him? The Romans at this time did not even believe in the miracles of Jesus, so why would the miracles of Clarence make a difference to them? Like, why would they care? They would just say, he's another street preacher. He's just another guy rabble-rousing the Jews. He's just another guy preaching this weird doctrine and stuff. We don't care. It's not a big deal. As long as he doesn't oppose Rome, as long as he doesn't challenge Rome, we could care less. Let the Jews do their own thing. The only reason they executed Jesus was because the Pharisees demanded that Jesus be executed, which leads into my next question. Where are the Pharisees in this? If they didn't like Jesus, they're definitely not going to like Clarence. In fact, where are the apostles? There are 11 apostles right now who might not like what Clarence is doing. Where are they? Why aren't they saying anything? Where are the criticisms from the Jews and the Christians of this time period? Why is everyone just believing this idiot? Why is everyone trusting this? Why are the Romans giving him the time of day? Why is this happening?
Damn.
Yeah, that actually sums up this whole concept pretty well. Damned. I'm gonna make a guess here. Just a guess. This movie, based on what I saw in the trailer, is going to be a classic liar revealed story. Essentially, what's going to happen is Clarence tries to convince everyone that he's the new Messiah so he can get fame and glory just like Jesus did, so he's going to basically mimic everything Jesus did without any understanding of it. But over time, this lie is going to get harder and harder to cover up, so one of three things will happen. Either A, his lie will be revealed, but through mercy he discovers the true message of Christ and is redeemed, becoming a new preacher of the good word, which would be the ideal outcome. Or, his lie is constantly covered up by his clever wording and humorous antics, but it drives him away from his friend, so he eventually has to reveal the truth. Or C, God literally just lets him perform miracles because, well, he really is just the new Messiah and he had no idea. While I wish that it were A, it will probably be B and C, because my issue here is we don't see anywhere in the trailer an indication that he is learning or growing or evolving. We don't see anyone saying, why are you lying? Or someone say, do you really understand what Jesus did? We don't see an apostle come to him. We don't see John come to him. We don't see anyone come to him to say, do you realize what you're doing is wrong? Or why are you lying? Or you don't understand Jesus, or you don't understand the gospel. No one is pointing out to this guy that what he's doing is wrong. So far, everything he's doing seems to be on point. Everyone loves him. He seems to be doing well. All of this seems to be going his way. People keep saying, this is supposed to be a comedy. This doesn't look like a comedy. It doesn't feel like a comedy. It feels like a bash against our faith. And normally, guys, I would just ignore this idiocy. I would just ignore it and say whatever. But in the movie trailer, this part irritated me, where it says that this is a new vision on a timeless story. I've already said my piece on that. But I want to reiterate. You're taking the gospel, Jesus' story, and you're giving it a new vision. And out of all the stuff you could have done, this is what you came up with. A race-swap Jesus character who does not heal or redeem because he loves the world, but pretends to heal and redeem because he loves himself and wants fame. Like I said, there's no hint in this trailer that Clarence is changing himself or improving himself, that he has something to learn, or that he's going to get better in any way. And maybe he will. Maybe I'm wrong, but we didn't see it in the trailer. Based on the trailer alone, this looks very cringe. The film seems to praise everything about his lies and deception. And is that your message? In fact, I find it very funny. I noticed this Jay-Z, who is very closely involved in this movie, when asked about it, he didn't indicate it was a comedy either. He didn't indicate it was supposed to be funny. He was talking about how it's important that we demonstrate that black people were involved in the biblical time and the biblical narrative and in Middle Eastern history. And I'm like, so that's what you're taking away from this? That's the big takeaway? Even if this is a comedy, it looks to me like you're still trying to push a narrative. You know what this feels like? This feels like the only way that this is a joke, and I'm sorry, I'm getting angry here, but this feels like a real joke to me, because this feels like something you do as like a Saturday Night Live sketch. Like if we pretended like, oh man, what if Jesus was black? What if you retold the whole gospel and everyone was black? Except that's not what they're doing. They're not trying to make this tongue-in-cheek or funny. There's no real moment to laugh out loud or any silly scenes like The Life of Brian. This feels like an insult. But I can already hear the complaints now, so let's go over them. Number one, but Raven, it's just a creative retelling. Why is that bad? Well, because this creative retelling isn't like ones we've seen before with The Passion or The Chosen, which were painstakingly trying to follow the biblical narrative to tell a creative version of the life of Jesus and his disciples. This is more of a lazy story about a man who wants to be Messiah and be glorified for it, and there's not a single moment in this trailer that makes me think that they're going to respect the message of Christ, only the comedy of this clown. This is not made to glorify God or glorify Jesus. It's meant to spread a narrative and make people chuckle at a guy who's playing the role of Jesus, yet poorly.
But that's the thing, Raven. It's a comedy. It's not meant to be taken seriously. You're meant to laugh about it. No one's being mocked here.
Well, two things. One, if this is a comedy, where are the laughs at? I didn't see anything worth laughing at. The only laugh I could see was maybe when John called Clarence a blasphemer and slapped him in the face. And I didn't even smile at that. I didn't even chuckle. I couldn't even grin. If this is the level of comedy you're going for, I'm going to pass, folks. And secondly, you know what? I'll accept what you say. I'll accept it. It's just comedy and no one's being mocked. But I give you a challenge. Creators of this film, do the exact same thing, but have it with a guy who saw what Muhammad did, you know, the prophet of Islam, and be the new prophet of Allah. Have him come up and say, I am Allah's new prophet. Have him do that, and then when the Islamic community gets mad at you, say, dude, no one's being mocked, it's just comedy. I want you to do that, and then I will take you seriously. Because I find it very interesting that this is something you're not afraid to do with Christianity and the faith of Christianity, but you're not going to do it with Buddhism, Islam, or anything else. It's got to be Christianity and Judaism. Why?
It's because they're black, isn't it? You don't like it because it's black.
No, see, I'm used to the race-swapping nonsense by now. It's been done to death in Hollywood, and it shows that Hollywood has run out of ideas. When your only idea is to take timeless stories and replace the characters with a different race or sex, it shows that you've run out of ideas. But what I don't understand here is not the race-swapping. I get that. It's how can black people even like this? Do you realize how stupid this movie makes black people look? Do you think that the Jews of that day, black or not, would see these obvious parlor tricks and actually buy them? Look at the scene where people are cheering and dancing for what's obviously a fake miracle. Do you just assume the ancient Jews, black or otherwise, are that stupid? And is that the message you even want to give? That the Jewish Messiah saved the world through God's love, but the black Messiah cheated and stole his way into people's hearts? Yeah, that's a great message.
You don't know, Raven. It could be good. Why don't you let the movie come out?
Alright, let me tell you what this movie reminds me of based on its premise alone. Shark Tale. The animated movie starring Will Smith. It's the story of a nobody who has an opportunity to fake his hero status and gain public fame and acclaim for it. He dupes the whole world into thinking he's greater than he really is and is out there to change things. But there are those who want to see him torn down. The difference is two things. One, in Shark Tale, the lie is revealed and he gets called out but still forgiven. And in the trailer, they did indicate that he is struggling to maintain the illusion, and there are people who know and are mad at him for lying about this kind of stuff.
You lied! Everybody thinks you slayed the shark!
Sharks are coming to get me!
In this trailer, we never see that. In fact, everyone seems to love him for some reason, except for the Romans, because I guess they're white. But in this movie right here, I'd say that it's the same thing as Shark Tale, but I don't know. I just can't tell. They don't reveal enough. But let's say it is Shark Tale, right down to the bare bones basis. Let's say that it's exactly like Shark Tale in every way. Shark Tale was a pretty bad movie. So even if this follows the same formula, I don't have much hope for it. And then finally, the big one.
You're just biased because you're a Christian.
I would be just as frustrated if this was a story about a black man trying to be the new Moses, a Hispanic man trying to be the new Muhammad, or a white man trying to be the next Buddha. The mantra that we're always asked to spout is respect all beliefs and opinions and values. But does this movie respect belief? This is making a literal mockery and performance out of what Jesus did. Say what you want about The Chosen or The Passion, but they were made with the intent to glorify God. This feels like it was made with the intent to ridicule. Now, obviously, there were people of the day who probably wanted to do the things Jesus did. Fakers, false prophets, they existed. And Jesus warned us that they would come. The apostles warned us that they would come. So there's no doubt that there were people like this at the time period. But there are two problems, major problems. Number one is the race swapping, which indicates to me that this is going to be very narrative driven. I get the feeling like you could have had an interesting story here if you went with a comedic route about a guy trying to be the next Messiah but failing and fumbling along the way. that could have been interesting. But I feel like because you race swapped everything, now you're afraid to go that route because you're worried you'll offend the community that you're trying to race swap into. And then the other problem is, this isn't a retelling of Jesus' story. This is a mockery of everything that Jesus was trying to do. See, the story of Jesus is the story of forgiveness and redemption. The story of Jesus is the idea that we, humanity, needed a savior, and Jesus was that savior, giving us the ultimate sacrifice so that we could be redeemed. This movie is more concerned about representation, more concerned about fame and glory given to the right people, and comedy. Now here's the thing. The Life of Brian did this a lot better. It was kind of mocking the zealousness of the time period. And it was about a guy who was desperately trying not to be the Messiah, but kept fumbling into Messiah-like attributes along the way. It was kind of a comedy of errors. This is a guy trying to be the Messiah. But nowhere along the way do I see anywhere where it's glorifying the actual understanding of Jesus. This was a hard trailer to get through. Now, again, the movie hasn't come out yet. Maybe it'll be better than I expect it to be. But I doubt it. I can only say this, though. Based on the like to dislike ratio I've seen on the trailer, I don't have high hopes. Anyway, that's all I have to say about this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get some hate for this, but I'm prepared for it. Anyway, I will see you guys in my next one. Take care.